Evaluating a deal varies from property to property. My focus these days are Class C and Class B properties, so it really depends on the business plan for the property, and that's what's going to drive the underwriting process. So this includes gathering the expense and income data, building financial models, performing rent and sales comps, and of course, walking the property and doing a walkthrough. All this can take a few days, maybe a week, maybe even longer. So, once you negotiate the fine points and you get it under contract, you have now 30 to 60 days to perform your due diligence and make sure that and confirm your underwriting assumptions and build out your entire financial plan according to what you find, right? So when you consider the costs of both the underwriting and your due diligence process, the deal evaluation becomes an investment of both your time and money. So the sooner you're able to identify any deal breakers, the better. So here are my 5 tips on potential deal breakers to look for when you are checking out a property. So number 1, mistakes in the offering memorandum. So the offering memorandum is also called the OM. You'll hear me refer to it as that. It's a marketing document that's created by the seller's broker and summarizes the deal as a whole. So note what I just said, marketing, all right? It's all marketing. The purpose of the OM is to support the seller's broker's price. And all the photos are going to look very beautiful, and the typesetting is going to look very impressive. And, the overall intent is to sell the deal for the highest price possible. It's going to get a nice beefy commission for the broker, and the seller walks away with a little more money, right? So typically the OM will include like your pro forma, your trailing 12, your T12, and a rent roll. Here's the thing. Never use that data when you're analyzing a deal, all right? At most, you can use it as a guide, mainly because this data will not be accurate. I can tell you right now. I even looked at your pro forma or your OM, and I know it's not accurate. Sometimes they even totally fabricate it, all right? And it sounds awful to say, but it's true. Remember, this data is to pull in the highest offer. That's what they're looking for. So I've looked at many deals where the rent roll in the OM and the actuals from the property manager were off by like $100 a unit. So if you're looking at like an 80 unit deal in a 9 cap market, it could mean the value could be pumped up from anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million. And, and they'll also say they have a occupancy of 100%. As soon as you see anything ending in 0, it's bull, right? It never ends in a 0, especially when you look at the rent rolls and you look through the historicals and you see 87% is really what the number is. So I can assure you that they're not chaining tenants to refrigerators or anything else like that, right? So you must always use the actual data and the current rent roll when you're looking at a deal. This other time, I found out that they didn't add up the expenses properly, and it made it look like the deal appeared to have a higher cap rate. Another time, the internal rate of return was totally wrong too. It was just incorrect. And there's other times as well where someone transcribed the rent roll from an 86 unit deal from paper, yes, paper, to an Excel document, and all those numbers are wrong too. So. And listen, I know people make mistakes. We're only human. But if you can't trust the numbers that are in the OM, how many other mistakes are there, right? So again, understand that these numbers are only for show. Use them as a guide and only when you're underwriting. That's it, okay? Number 2, an unrealistic pro forma. So the pro forma contains detailed information about the financial performance of the property. So generally when you're looking at a deal, like say the T12 for instance is used to look at your trailing 12 months and you're looking for stability month over month, right? That's what you're looking for with that. So here's an example of something that happened to me recently. I was looking at a 150 unit deal. The financials showed gross income for the previous 5 years starting at 780, and it just increased by about 12,000 annually for 5 years. Sounds reasonable. Okay, all right. You consider that you're always going to do a little bit of a rent bump as you're improving, right? The pro forma showed gross income for the coming year over $250,000 compared to what it is today. And it also showed 100% occupancy. I mean, it's like that's not even realistic. The expense ratio was at 39%. Even the best run properties with little to no maintenance, they run at 40%. That's what their expense ratio is. And it's possible to have that expense ratio, but you're talking a well-run machine, and those tend to be somewhat tough to come by these days. So, in another deal, I found the expenses were super low compared to what you should be in that area. There was a small 30-unit deal, and the annual water and sewage for that deal was $5,000, and the property is sitting on 1.8 acres of land with a lot of grass. So that tells me, clearly you have to water the grass. You have 30 people, or potentially even more, depending if they have spouses, using an average of $13-14 a month. It's probably gonna be a little more than that, I would imagine, per unit, by the way. The best way to overcome an unrealistic pro forma is to base your analysis on how you will run the property. If you're leveraging partners, like say a property manager who I've referred to in other videos, ask them to prepare a pro forma based on their own information and on the seller data, of course, and what they know about the area, right? Because they have that knowledge. They're managing many more units than you might be, and they have that intimate knowledge with that area. Number 3, speaking of areas, bad area. One of the factors that tends to be an automatic deal breaker for me anyway is where the area, where the property is located, right? I'm looking for good deals in good market. So if there's no demand for people to live in that area, or there aren't any new jobs moving in, it may not be for you. If you are not able to go in, make improvements, raise rents without having to worry if your appliances are going to get stolen in the middle of the night, just don't do it. It's less stress for you and for the property manager, because it may even be tough to find a property manager who want to go into that area. Number 4, unethical property managers and owners of bad reputations. Those are something else to watch out for. Now, let's say the financial data in the OM was done by mistake, or was created by an intern who wasn't familiar with numbers. We already decided, though, that we're not going to take them at face value, so we'll put that aside. But there are things far worse than bad numbers in a document, and that's when people purposefully cloud a deal to hide the expensive problems, or just flat out lie about it. I hold events on a regular basis with other multifamily investors, and one of our attendees, they discovered that a property manager was literally forging rents, leases, and other important data on a deal that he was looking at. That property manager also said they had 91% occupancy, when it was more like 80%. And the only reason why my friend caught it was because someone from inside the property management company forwarded an email by mistake. And then he saw it, opened it up, and of course everything was disclosed. He found out what was going on. He would have discovered it anyway. When he would have tried to balance what was going on in their financials versus what's going on at the bank, which is something you guys should do too. Always make sure things match up. But it would have been further down the road, of a huge waste of time, right? Another time, someone sent me a 200-unit deal to look at, and doing some research on the internet to see what the residents, how they felt about the property. I came across a video on YouTube where the landlord was shouting at a news crew, and turns out that the news crew was accusing them of not providing the tenants with any heat, and it was the middle of winter. It's just a terrible situation. There's just something about not paying a bill, or not repairing the boilers, or just generally not taking care of a handful of these tenants that were in there. And I know that kind of stuff can be fixed with property management. I get it. But if that's one indication of a problem, I don't want to be involved with anymore, honestly. It sounds like just an entirely bad situation. Regrettably, people don't always tell the truth. And if you get an inkling that something isn't right and you just don't feel it, you just walk away. Okay, it's far easier for you to just do that. Number 5, issues found during a walkthrough. Even if everything looks good on paper, you need to do a walkthrough. You got to walk the property before locking it down. There can be plenty of deal breakers that you can only see when you actually walk the property. That's the only way. One thing is, one deal that I saw was it was a Wednesday mid morning, and plenty of cars in the parking lot. Could be an indication that there's high unemployment in that building, right? Maybe there's people that just aren't working, or maybe the surrounding area around a nice prospective property looks really bad and run down. It could be an indication of crime. Don't know. You can run stats for that as well. But performing a visit will impact your repair budget. Actually, recently I went on a visit on a small 4-story property. Looked promising on paper, and on the front looks okay. We walked around the back and we saw that it was splitting in two, right from the very top to the middle. It was breaking apart. It looked like a transformer. It was insane. Clearly it is a sign of a very expensive problem, and we just felt like it would kill the deal. We just decided just to leave it. So anyway, those are my 5. What's the biggest deal breaker you have when you're looking at a deal? Let me know in the comments. And of course, if you like what I have to say, please go ahead and share it. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much, guys, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.